Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome back to today's bonus upload. A bonus upload gets us a little closer to tonight's Saturday Nightmares live from New York, 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I hope to see you all there. Before we jump into this bonus, though, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost you a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. And yes, folks, they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to today's bonus, shall we?
I got an email that I noticed in the heading, very important government information. I opened it up and the guy told me who he was. So there was a phone number attached and I gave him a call. Talked to him for about 45 minutes. And so he asked me not to disclose his name. He is retired. He retired from the Air Force Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance Agency. He retired in 2013. That division of the Air Force was closed down in 2014. He retired probably like 9 months before the division was closed. And so I'm like, okay, well, I am interested in UFOs, UAPs. And he said, that's not what I want to talk to you about. And I'm like, okay. I said, what made you reach out to me? I'm 45,000 subscribers. I'm not big. I don't have a lot of followers. I got a lot of views, but I don't have a lot of followers. And he said that's precisely the reason. You research, you look into things, and from what he could tell, he feels like I'm an honest person. I was like, well, I appreciate that. During his career in the Air Force, he started to talk a little bit about what he did. He's a couple years younger than my dad. He's about 68 years old. And he's been holding this information for 12 years now. Apparently, what really made him reach out was the Border Patrol attack. Now, for those of you who didn't hear it, 3 Border Patrol agents were in Texas, and they were Edinburgh, and they were on the Rio Grande watching some migrants come into the country illegally. And what they were doing is they were waiting for them to come across. On one side of them, they were above everybody, so they saw some stuff. They could see everything, and really nothing could see them. They saw what they at first thought was a wolf. Then it stood up and attacked these people and tore them apart. One of them shot the creature twice, fatally wounding it, they believe. And then 2 of those Border Patrol agents are now no longer with us. There is news pertaining to their deaths, but very strange deaths. We all know what happened. So I said, well, okay. He said, you're on the right path, Jeff. And I said, okay, what's that mean? And he said, the government have been harnessing these creatures. They didn't create them. But they've been harnessing them for weapons of war in case ever needed, ever our country was invaded. This project has been going on for a lot longer than most would think. It really ramped up in the 60s. It really started to pick up in the 60s, and one of the reasons why was because they felt that they could harness some of these creatures to use as weapons of war in other countries, or if we were ever invaded. But if there was ever conflict in the United States, and the reason why he said in the 60s it really ramped up was because of a lot of the protests that were going on. If ever needed, they could flood the inner cities very quickly and quietly take care of trouble, riots. He said fortunately they never did. There are occasions that it happens. And I'm like, wow, okay. This isn't the first time that I've heard something like this, but it's a little more detailed than I first knew. He said that only certain special operations were aware of this. The Air Force, the Navy, and Army. After SOCOM was created, they were involved a little bit. I said, well, yeah, the Super Soldier program. And he said, that's not SOCOM, Jeff. That's not who controls the Super Soldier program. And I said, okay, well. He then tells me that the harnessing of these creatures is no longer just an American project. All right, sorry, I apologize. I had to go check on the corned beef. It was boiling over. And so he said, we're not America is not the only country that has harnessed these creatures. And I said, okay. I kind of heard that before too. In 1967, President Johnson, during the conflict in Southeast Asia, Vietnam War, there were creatures used on our side. And the communist regime over there had captured a couple. They were then brought back to mainland China. And I said, wow, okay, well, how do you know all this? And because of who and what he did for the Air Force, a lot of reconnaissance were done. And a lot of satellite imagery was captured. He said that in China, they weren't using underground bases like we use here. They don't really need to hide anything from their people because all their people are loyal or they're dead. And there are certain parts of the country that are pretty much barren, no human beings. But there's these camps out there, and they've had satellite imagery of these kind of breeding programs in China. And I'm like, okay, well, that's crazy because, you know, we're not on great terms with these guys right now. And he said, well, we've never really been on great terms. It's always been a balance of power. I said, do you think that they'll use them on us? He said, I don't really think so. He said, but it's a possibility. And then he started to talk about some things that were going on in America. He almost kind of stopped that whole, like he almost said too much. So under Presidential Order Johnson, during all of this, when they found out some of these creatures had been captured, Johnson started to increase the programs here in our country. Nixon did as well. And when he first was approached, he was in the Air Force. He demonstrated a lot of skills, he was a very intelligent kid when he was younger. Still is. I mean, you could tell this guy was a genius. If not really smart, you know what I mean? And the Air Force intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance program reached out to him. The agency reached out to him, and they recruited him. It was their job to monitor worldwide certain little other countries' programs like nuclear capability, this, and that. There was a select few of people that were in charge of looking at cryptid containment in other countries. And it wasn't just the Air Force. It was naval intelligence, Army. But with the Air Force, they had the skies. Right now, he is in 100% belief that this program is ramping up more now. He had asked me how much I knew about Dulce, and I said, well, a little bit. You know, I did 20 videos on it, and I've read a lot. I interviewed Laura Eisenhower, and he said, oh, yeah, Laura is a very intelligent woman. And I said, yes, sir. He pretty much said that these bases, underground, Dulce, areas like that, are no longer defunct. They did go defunct for a bit under Clinton. This is nothing to what Victor shared with us. This is, you know, we're talking East Coast Victor, but he's talking about the dumbs that were hidden. he asked me, why do you think they drain Lake Mead, and why do you think there are bodies in Lake Mead all the time? And I said, well, things happen. Gangsters, drug deals gone bad, crap like that. He said there's a lot more bodies found in locations that have involvement in these classified programs. He said that as of right now, he knows that the government is working on some sort of hybrid program to create, using the molecules or DNA strands of Dogman and mixing them with other strains of things that we have gathered and controlled since Dulce, alien involvement, this and that, and that what people are seeing as of late is a genetic creation of the government. They're using these Dogman creatures and Bigfoot to create another more dangerous animal that actually has some kind of intelligence, more intelligence, and can be controlled easier. I asked him, I said, well, what are these? Are they human-like? Are they these? And he said, no, these are what people are talking about when they say these Dogmen are super soldiers. These are a genetic mutation that our government is now creating. And a lot of the times that when people are think they're seeing a Dogman, think they're seeing a Bigfoot, it's not. It's one of these creatures. They have the capability of quickly cloaking, quickly vanishing. And he and I talked for 20 more minutes. I said, can I record you? And he said, no. I said, I understand. I said, well, can you share more information with me? What can I share? What this, and that? He said, you can share what I just shared with you. Do not share my name. Do not share my phone number, and do not share my email. And I said, okay. It really does kind of put a lot of what we've heard, it gives it more concrete base, I guess. I guess that would be the thing to say. But to know that other countries are capable of, how many of you guys thought other countries are capable? We're not just, yes, we're America. We are the home of the brave. We are free. We are, we're mighty. But there are other countries that have the capabilities that we have as well. And that's scary to think about, that other countries are now countries that equal our power, our finances, are capable of harnessing these things as well, and could quite possibly use them on us at any time. The one thing that, I've already thought about this crap, but the one thing that freaked me out the most is when he was talking about the 60s, and that at one point Johnson, during the riots, in 67, 66, during that era after Kennedy was killed, that they had contemplated on using these creatures to subdue and control Americans. Can you imagine what our future would be like right now if they had used those things? How many leaks would have been out? I mean, they definitely couldn't have quieted it all down, but just imagine. I don't know. I was shocked.
All right, folks, and he did reach back out. This is the second communication we had together and more info he shared. I had talked to a retired Air Force intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance agent. He worked for the Air Force till 2013 when he retired, 1 year before the closing of that division. And I spoke with him last night for a little while, had a great conversation, and he shed some more light on some things that he was kind of vague on last conversation we had. So I asked what I could share. He said, share what you want, just like last time, just not my name, not my email, and not my phone number. I said, absolutely. I said, I do appreciate what you're sharing with us. And so let's get into what he shared with us, or with me. Now I'm sharing it with you. So during his years of work with the ISR, or Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance, for the Air Force, he told me a lot about what they were responsible for doing. A lot of that was surveillance in other countries. What he shared with me the other day was, not only are we using or have the capability of using these creatures, manipulating genetics and stuff like that, that China is as well. He believes that a few other countries are in the process of doing it. If China is, chances are the majority of communist countries are as well. It's a tool. These creatures are a tool. I talked a little bit a while ago on my own information that I learned about a scientist from Russia who was forced to share her work with the Russian or Soviet government. I guess it would have been the Soviet Union at that point, where she was studying the cloaking abilities of these creatures. What he said, they used to watch certain locations. America, we have dumbs. Well, over there, they really don't need to hide anything from their citizens because they really don't have citizens. If you're not pro your country or pro your leader, then you're disposable. A lot of these things were above ground. Now, that I found completely interesting because I always kind of had I always figured that we weren't, if we had that capability, why were we the only country that was capable or able to use these creatures? Yes, we are a great country, and yes, I love America, but there are other countries that have the same amount of capabilities we have, like it or not, unfortunately. Then we started to talk a little bit about Lake Mead and some bodies that were found. And tonight, or last night, excuse me, he shared with me a little more on that. and a little bit more on some national parks, which I was kind of floored. He pretty much will start with the national parks quickly. Any kind of base, militarized base, is closely located to a national park. They may not be right bordering or butting up against them, but there is a close proximity. Okay. And with these national parks, they're dense forests. And a lot of times they are using or experimenting with certain programs, certain projects. Let's say they are harnessing Dogman or something else, some other genetic mutation that they've created, and some hikers stumble across them. What do you think is going to happen to those hikers? Do you think our government is just going to allow them to walk away? No. He also said that they are creating very strange creatures, ones that we would not even imagine capable of existing in today's world. I mentioned to him, I said, well, how familiar are you with my channel? How familiar are you with cryptozoology? The crawlers, this and that. And I flat out asked him, I said, I truly believe that these creatures were created in Dulce, New Mexico. And he said that they were created after. What he knows is that, yes, it is an alien hybrid. More or less, the aliens or extraterrestrial, however you want to call it, and wherever they came from. He actually said the majority of the creatures that our government, or extraterrestrials that our government worked with during the 50s, 60s, and early 70s, weren't even from outer space. They had harnessed they'd harnessed a way of crossing space through portals on our land. So I said, well, is that dimensional? And he said, interstellar. So they're crossing, almost like a wormhole right on Earth. I'm sitting there while he's talking to me and telling me this, like, my brain is spinning. It's going 1,000 miles an hour. So he pretty much stated to me when I said the crawlers, I mentioned the crawlers, and I have this written down. I wrote this all down as we were talking. So I filled up probably 15 pages of a yellow notebook. He said what these crawlers were almost like a security force for extraterrestrial. They resembled the extraterrestrial that were working with our government and sharing secrets for our secrets, which would be human test trials and stuff like that. He said that these creatures were like hunters. They would go and hunt these people that were going to be test trials for these extraterrestrials. They were the ones, the hunter-gatherers, kind of. They didn't kill the people. They grabbed them and brought them back to whatever kind of military installation was used. And then our government saw the capabilities of these things. They were silent. They were very quick, agile. They could fit in spaces most humanoid-like creatures couldn't, like a Dogman, a human, a Sasquatch. They were smaller, but just as strong. They were the ones that were finding the human test subjects. And our government decided sometime along the lines to harness the capabilities of these creatures and kind of make our own with the help of the extraterrestrial. There were a lot of he said there was a lot of experimentation going on after Dulce. He said that he is aware of underground bases being active through the 90s. It was really hush-hush after a certain period of time, but through the 90s there were experimentations going on. Which just, I mean, you have no idea what what hearing this information was like. It was just absolutely mind-blowing. He said that when there would be these test runs of Dogman or any other kind of creatures used to hunt, or, you know, if they were, I get a test run in national parks, that a set of hikers would come across them, they're gone. They would be hunted down. Some are never heard from. Some are quickly brought into an experimental zone. He did say there are multiple portals throughout the national forests, and for a specific reason of, you know, these are dense, deep forests. And like I just said, their military installations are, not all of them are located near these national forests, but a lot of them are. They're not butt up right against them, but how many times have we heard the military going into a national forest? Well, he said the reason for that is when these portals open and these extraterrestrial travelers come over, that they need a way to get to these bases, these underground bases that are below our military installations, to, you know, experiment on humans and trade secrets with our government. So I can't even, part of me here, to be honest with you guys, part of me was like looking at the Dulce files all over again. You know, when you first start to read about Dulce and what our government did with extraterrestrials, you're almost like, no, this couldn't have happened. This is a work of science fiction. Part of me was shocked like that while I was talking to this guy. He had mentioned Lake Mead last time. I said, so what's the deal with Lake Mead? He had said, why do you think there are so many bodies tossed in that lake? There's a installation right around that area. Some are discarded after they are used for experimentation. He gave me a perfect example and said that there was a guy named Tom Earned and his family was on a boat one evening. There's no sign of him after the boating trip. He didn't fall over. The boat didn't capsize. Just recently, they found his body. How do you find a body that disappeared 21 years ago? That, I mean, if you think about it, it would be melted, you know? Just bear with me, you know. He said this. He said that body would be like stew, you know, fish, varmint, getting to it, this and that. But they were able to identify his remains because they weren't that bad. They weren't like 21 years of rotting in a lake that's responsible for drinking water at that. It was almost as if when the bodies were found just recently, that his body was tossed in there within the last 6 months. This is all information that he was sharing with me, and I went back and looked into that guy, and he was last seen on a family trip in 2002. Yet just recently you find his body and are able to identify him. It was shocking, truly shocking. He said that he knows for a fact that during the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s that the government had gotten intelligence from these extraterrestrials to harness the creatures that were already on planet Earth, like Dogman, Bigfoot. They were capable. After they got this technology, they were capable of controlling them. You know, we're talking about the 50s and 60s. You know, we were still so far unadvanced at that time. You know, modern day humanity, like the smartphone is only, 10 years old, 12 years old, 15 years old, not long. So, you know, we think of these experimentations going on back then with the capabilities that we have now. Something's responsible for that. Not humankind, that's for gosh darn sure. He truly believes, without a shadow of a doubt, that the government are still, you know, he reached out to me after he had heard about the Border Patrol thing. Because for him, he said that really made it real that they were still doing what they were doing. They had pretty much harnessed these creatures in case anything went down and they needed to be used. Now, I saw, and I brought this up to him because in the comment section, there was a comment that said, how would they hide this from humanity? And he said, very easy. They're doing it every day. Attacks that are blamed on regular animals. You know, it fits the case, you know, like Tony Aarons, Amber Miller. They weren't regular animals, but yet this case that just recently happened to an old guy in Alabama that was torn apart by dogs, that was really torn apart by dogs. You can almost
use that as a comparison. Oh, well, this guy was torn apart in broad daylight in front of people by dogs. So why wasn't these people? And anyone who sees these creatures at use are automatically taken out. And if they aren't, they are labeled as insane, and then they're taken out. You know, once a whistleblower comes to the light, they are easily taken care of. I myself and other people who are doing what I do are not whistleblowers. We're just sharing information that we gather that can be written off, you know, as active imaginations, right? So these creatures are definitely being used by our government. Other governments have the capability of using them against their own people. And we have created monsters. Our government is constantly creating monsters. People claim to see military vehicles going in and out of national parks. Like he said, why do you think that happens? Because there are portals that these interdimensional travelers, these extraterrestrials, cross over, and they cannot be seen. So what happens? The government sends the military in to transport these extraterrestrials to where they need to go. Military bases with underground military bases below them. Once again, while he was sharing this information with me, my brain was, I don't know how many people have read all of the information about Dulce. There's a lot of it. But when you do, and when you first start to read about it, you truly are like, this can't be real. Yet it is. It's truly mind-blowing. And I don't know what else to say, but that was the end of our conversation. And you know, he super nice guy, retired in 2013. You know, he's been sitting on this information for 10 years. But when he heard about the Border Patrol agents seeing a Dogman hunt down migrant people, it automatically reminded him of military and government projects in case, you know, he had said, like, when during the riots that happened in Chicago and California and stuff in the 60s and 70s, there was actually talk of sending dogmen and these type of creatures in to stop it from happening. Thank God they didn't. But imagine if they did. So, I don't know. I asked the guy if he would, you know, stay in contact with me. And, you know, he just said, I pretty much just shared everything I know with you. Do with it what you want. He was adamant about not recording him. You know, he really was. He asked me about 1,000 times if I had gotten rid of his email address, which he used a Proton one, whatever they are, Proton, and a phone number that was a burner phone. So he asked me to get rid of both of those, even though he is pretty sure they can't be traced. But, you know, don't save them on your phone. Don't write them down. Don't do this. I said, well, I did write your phone number down. I apologize. Just to get rid of it. If I want to contact you, I will. So that's the latest from the retired Air Force intelligence.
Well, there you have it, folks. Today's bonus, which I do hope you all enjoyed as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. After all, it is your support that keeps this channel growing and going, and what gives folks like all of us a place and a chance to share our experiences, judgment-free, just simply treated with the respect that we all deserve. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real. They are out there and dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless.